Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready to dive into something interesting?
Always.
Today we're tackling a question we've been getting a lot lately. Is Google's AMP, accelerated mobile pages, still relevant in 2024?
AMP. It's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it?
It is. So we've got a stack of articles here, research, the works, and we're going to break it all down.
Sounds like a plan.
So for those who may be unfamiliar, AMP was Google's answer to slow mobile pages. The idea was to create a stripped-down, super fast version of the web for mobile devices.
And it definitely made a splash. Suddenly everyone was obsessed with page speed, which, let's be honest, was long overdue.
Right. Remember the days of endlessly scrolling, waiting for a page to load?
Oh, I remember those days all too well. It was like watching paint dry, only less exciting.
The worst. But the web moves fast, and we're here to see if AMP has managed to keep up. Now, one of the arguments I'm seeing in these articles is that AMP isn't just about raw speed, but about a consistently fast experience on any device.
That's a key distinction. Consistency is crucial, especially in today's mobile-first world. People are accessing websites on a wide range of devices, from high-end smartphones to older models with slower connections.
So it's about creating a level playing field, so to speak, where everyone has access to a fast, seamless experience, regardless of their device.
Exactly. It's about making the mobile web more equitable.
I like that. So how does AMP try to achieve that? What's the secret sauce?
Well, AMP essentially enforces a set of rules and restrictions on how websites are built. It limits the use of certain web technologies that can slow down page load times, especially on mobile devices.
So it's like streamlining the whole process, stripping away the unnecessary fluff.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing what matters most: speed and content delivery.
Makes sense. But I'm already sensing a but coming. There have to be some downsides to this approach, right?
You're right. There are always trade-offs.
Yeah.
And with AMP, one of the biggest concerns has been the potential impact on design flexibility. Because AMP imposes these restrictions on web development, it can limit what designers can do creatively.
So it's like choosing between a sleek, speedy race car and a customizable, but maybe not as fast SUV.
I like that analogy. It's a good way to think about it. With AMP, you're getting that raw speed and efficiency, but you might have to sacrifice some of the bells and whistles that make a website visually stunning or highly interactive.
So it's a balancing act then, weighing the need for speed with the desire for a visually rich and engaging website.
Precisely. And the right balance will vary depending on the website and its goals.
That makes sense. So let's say someone is building a brand new website today in 2024. Should AMP be on their radar? Is it something they should seriously consider?
That's a great question. If it's a brand new website, they have the opportunity to build a solid mobile-first foundation from the get-go. Focus on clean code, optimized images, and a responsive design that adapts seamlessly to any screen size.
So, responsive design first, AMP second.
It's not necessarily about one being better than the other, but rather understanding the strengths and limitations of each approach. AMP can be a powerful tool, but it's not always the right tool for every job.
That's a helpful way to frame it. So what about those who already have existing websites, perhaps even ones with AMP already implemented? Should they be hitting the panic button?
Not at all. For existing websites, the decision to stick with AMP or ditch it is a bit more nuanced. It really boils down to a cost-benefit analysis.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for us. What kind of factors should go into that analysis?
The first question to ask is whether AMP is actually moving the needle for them. Are their AMP pages performing better than their non-AMP counterparts? Are they seeing a significant boost in speed and user engagement? Or are those AMP pages just kind of existing?
So data is key here. Don't just assume AMP is working its magic. You need to actually look at the numbers.
Exactly. Data will tell you if AMP is truly delivering on its promises. And if it's not, or if maintaining those separate AMP versions is becoming a resource drain, then it might be time to reassess.
It's like Marie Kondoing your website. Only instead of asking if it sparks joy, you're asking if it sparks conversions or engagement.
I love that. And just like with decluttering your home, sometimes letting go of what's no longer serving you can be incredibly liberating.
Truth. So let's say someone decides to stick with AMP for now. Are there any best practices they should keep in mind to make the most of it?
Absolutely. Even if AMP is working well for you currently, it's crucial to stay informed about best practices and potential pitfalls. One of the biggest I guess you could say pitfalls with AMP is something we call canonicalization.
Canonicalization sounds intimidating.
It's not as scary as it sounds. Basically, with AMP, you have these two versions of your web page, right? You've got the regular one and then the AMP version.
Right.
And if they're not, properly implemented, it can confuse search engines. Google sees these two versions and it's like, wait, which one is the real one? Which one should I prioritize?
So it's like having a doppelganger on the internet. That could definitely cause some problems.
Exactly. And that can end up hurting your search engine rankings, which is the opposite of what you want with AMP.
Not good. So it's not just as simple as slapping on an AMP version and calling it a day.
Not quite. It's not a magic bullet. It takes some careful planning, making sure everything's set up correctly from the get-go.
Okay, so assuming someone has their ducks in a row, what else do they need to be thinking about when it comes to AMP?
Well, they need to remember that even within the constraints of AMP, user experience is still king.
It's not just about speed at all costs.
Exactly. A page might load super fast, but if it's clunky, difficult to navigate, people are going to bounce.
Makes sense.
They still need to prioritize those core UX principles. Clear navigation, intuitive design, the whole 9 yards.
So it's about working within the parameters of AMP, but still creating a great experience for the user.
Absolutely. Don't let the pursuit of speed overshadow the importance of a user-friendly design. Now, speaking of things that can be overshadowed, let's talk about ad revenue.
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room. Many publishers rely on advertising to keep things afloat, and there have been some concerns about AMP's impact on ad earnings.
Rightfully so. Because AMP prioritizes this, super streamlined user experience, it can sometimes limit the use of third-party scripts. And those scripts are often used for serving ads.
So fewer scripts, faster loading times, but potentially fewer ad placements. That sounds like a tough trade-off for publishers.
It can be. And I won't sugarcoat it. Some publishers did see a dip in revenue when they first implemented AMP.
So those concerns weren't entirely unfounded.
No, they were valid concerns. But here's the thing. It's not an automatic death sentence for ad revenue. There are ways to adapt, to optimize, and to find that sweet spot between speed and monetization.
Okay, I'm listening. What are some of those strategies?
Well, for starters, publishers can focus on high-impact ad formats that play well with AMP. Things like sticky ads. Those are the ones that kind of follow you as you scroll.
Right.
Those can be really effective in the AMP environment. Native ads, those that blend in with the content, they can work well too. It's all about being smart, strategic about those placements.
So it's about finding ad formats that complement the AMP experience, not detract from it.
Exactly. Now, another crucial thing for publishers to consider is their ad network. Not all ad networks are created equal when it comes to AMP.
So you really need to shop around, do your research.
Absolutely. Look for an ad network that explicitly supports AMP and offers a good selection of AMP-compatible ad formats.
Yeah.
You want a partner who understands the nuances of this framework and can help you make the most of it.
Great advice. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about some real-world examples. One that caught my eye was Gizmodo, the popular tech and culture blog. They reportedly saw some pretty impressive results with AMP.
Gizmodo is a classic case study. A few years back, they were grappling with slow mobile page loads, which, let's face it, is a common problem.
The struggle is real.
Right. And their website, it was mobile-friendly, but those pages were taking their sweet time to load.
Yeah, nothing kills my vibe faster than waiting for a page to load on my phone. So what did Gizmodo do?
They took the AMP plunge.
Yeah.
And the results were pretty impressive. We're talking up to 3 times faster load times on their mobile pages.
3 times. That's massive. But we're all about the tangible results here. Did those speed improvements translate into actual benefits for Gizmodo?
They did. Along with those faster loading times, they saw a significant increase in new traffic coming from AMP pages. It seems Google's algorithm at the time really rewarded those lightning-fast speeds.
So it was a win-win. Better user experience and a boost in search rankings.
Precisely. Mm-hmm. And it highlights how, at least back then, speed and SEO were very much intertwined.
It's interesting, though, because when I hear Gizmodo, I think of a site that's very visual, very design-heavy. Did they use AMP across their entire website?
That's a great question. Yeah. And it brings up a really important point about AMP. You don't necessarily have to go all in and amplify your entire website. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a more targeted approach is more effective.
Okay, so it's not an all-or-nothing situation.
Not at all. No. In Gizmodo's case, they strategically implemented AMP on their article pages, which makes sense, right? People are going to Gizmodo primarily to consume content, to read those articles.
Right.
So by focusing on making those pages lightning fast, they were able to significantly improve that core user experience.
Focus on what matters most. Got it. Now, I know we've talked a lot about media sites and content-heavy websites, but what about other types of businesses? Can AMP be beneficial for them too?
Absolutely. It's not just for media companies. In fact, let's talk about TransUnion.
TransUnion, the credit reporting agency.
The one and only. They actually used AMP to address a very specific challenge they were facing.
I'm curious, what was the issue?
So their website was already mobile friendly. Those pages were taking a while to load. And for a company like TransUnion, those slow load times were a major pain point.
Yeah, I can see that being a problem. Nobody wants to wait around for their credit score to load.
Exactly. People are checking their credit scores on their phones on the go. They need those results fast. So TransUnion decided to implement AMP, particularly on their core pages, the ones where people were checking their scores, accessing reports, those crucial actions.
Did it work? Spill the tea.
It did. Their AMP pages were loading incredibly fast, even on slower 3G connections. We're talking a couple of seconds compared to, much longer load times for their non-AMP pages.
Wow, that's a significant improvement. But did those faster loading times actually translate into tangible results for TransUnion?
They did. They saw a noticeable increase in conversions, a significant reduction in their bounce rate, and people were spending more time on their website overall.
So even a company like TransUnion, which isn't exactly, operating in the fast-paced world of tech or media, was able to reap some pretty substantial benefits from AMP.
It really goes to show that AMP can be a valuable tool for a wide range of websites, not just those focused on delivering content at lightning speed. It's about optimizing those key user journeys, regardless of your industry.
These case studies are really interesting, but I have to admit, I'm still a bit torn on AMP. On one hand, the benefits, especially those speed improvements, are hard to ignore, but on the other hand, those limitations, particularly the potential impact on design flexibility, they give me pause, especially for someone who's poured their heart and soul into building a beautiful, highly customized website. It seems like a tough trade-off.
I hear you. It's a common dilemma. And honestly, there's no easy answer. It's about weighing those priorities, understanding the compromises involved, and making an informed decision based on your specific needs and goals. It always comes back to finding that sweet spot, doesn't it? Balancing those competing priorities.
It does. So where do we go from here? What's the next frontier in this whole quest for a better mobile web?
Well, I think it's about moving beyond this idea of AMP as a silver bullet, as the be-all and end-all solution. It's just one tool in our toolbox.
Okay, so if AMP isn't the be-all and end-all, what else is there? What other tools should we be adding to our web development arsenals?
Responsive design, for starters. That's still crucial. Making sure your website adapts beautifully to any screen size. That's non-negotiable.
Right, responsive design is a must. What else?
Progressive web apps, or PWAs. Those are becoming increasingly important. Think of them as, hybrid websites that offer app-like experiences.
Right, I've heard of those. They're like the best of both worlds, right?
Exactly. You get the reach and accessibility of a website with the speed and functionality of a native app.
Sounds like a winning combination. So where does AMP fit into this mix? Is it still relevant alongside these other approaches?
AMP can still be a valuable tool, especially for websites with a lot of static content, like news articles or blog posts.
So it's not about ditching AMP altogether, but rather using it strategically in conjunction with these other tools.
Precisely. It's about having a diverse toolkit and choosing the right tool for the job. And the job is always the same, creating a fantastic user experience.
User experience, that's the North Star, right?
Always. No matter how technologically advanced websites become, it all comes back to the user. If it's not easy, enjoyable, and, fast, people won't stick around.
They won't. And speaking of sticking around, we should probably wrap things up soon. But before we do, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Any parting thoughts on the ever-evolving world of web development?
Stay curious. The web is constantly changing, so embrace that. Experiment, learn, adapt, and never stop trying to create amazing experiences for your users.
I love that. Embrace the chaos, right?
Exactly. It's what keeps things interesting.
It certainly does. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Big thanks to you, my friend, for sharing your expertise with us today. Always a pleasure picking your brain.
The pleasure is all mine. Always happy to geek out about web stuff.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of AMP and beyond. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible on the web.